Hey guys, welcome to video number 8. Today we're going to start reassembling because you guys should have gone through, got all your measurements done, and had been at this point with just the cylinder block and all your parts are apart. So we're going to go ahead and start the reassembly process. Some tools that we need today is, of course, our safety glasses. Go ahead and put those on. Then we've got a torque wrench. This is a inch-pounds torque wrench. All we're doing today is stuff in the inch-pounds. This is a piston ring compressor, and this is the wrench for that. Your feeler gauges, and then a 10mm wrench, a 14mm wrench, and then your socket set. And then I also have a little bit of oil in just a cup, but we'll get to why I have that when we start assembling everything. To begin, I gotta say, your hands might get a little dirty. You're gonna have to get a little oil on your hands because when we start assembling everything, we gotta make sure it's well oiled up. And I just took this apart, so it's still pretty oily, but I still wanna make sure I got oil on this part and around here. That way we don't have any excess friction that'll cause problems. So we have some oil down in here. I'm just gonna rub it around here. First, we're just gonna put in the crankshaft by hand. So put oil around these parts, and then wanna make sure it's nice and oiled up. We don't want any extra friction. So we'll go ahead, just by hand, we're putting this in here. Make sure everything lines up nice. Okay, you can kind of see the governor gear rotating back there, so we're all good there. That's how easy it is to get the crankshaft in there. Our next order of business is putting the piston back in. So one thing to make sure when we put the piston in, arrow down. And this was a mistake I found with myself, was when I put my wrist pin back in, I accidentally flipped this, so it was upside down. So my slinger wasn't gonna be in there in the right spot. So I went ahead and rotated that around. So I'll go ahead and get everything ready to put the piston in. Go ahead and make sure that we've got the cylinder sleeve all oiled up in there. Just grab a little oil, and we don't want extra friction. We'll do the same thing, get oil around our piston here. And then make sure you take this off. We don't need that on there. Okay. Perfect. Get that all oiled. Okay. Now, we need our piston ring compressor tool. And basically how this works is you use your wrench, and it's like another ratchet. You turn it and it tightens down. So get it turned a little bit, and then we'll get it on top of there. And make sure, keep everything straight. And then also, we don't want this all the way down here like that. It's all the way down here like that, we can't get it into the sleeve. So we gotta keep it up a little bit. I like to keep it just about there because I know my piston rings are covered, and it leaves me a lot of space to get the piston set. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this down. We want to make sure we get it tight. once we got that, remember we have our arrow pointing down. So basically, we just slide it in there. So I'll turn it to the side so you can see. With my arrow pointing down, I just slide it in place. Then, make sure we got our... So I got it to where this is flat. And then we just pop this in. Let me go ahead and get that. All right, so I just got that popped in. One thing when doing it is gotta be like a swift motion. You're just pop it in, just pop it in. It can't be push, and it's like you stop for a little bit and it's like really tough. If you do that, you're gonna probably have to retighten this down because the ring's popped out. So, and I'm rotating this around to line up there. Okay, I did that. Now we can put this guy on. Now it's another tight spot in here, just like when we had to get it out, it was a tighter spot. So just try to get it in there and yeah, fat fingers like me, it sucks. Right. And just finger tighten that down. Rotated it just a little so I can get a better view of this hole for this other one. Now these are one of the most important bolts on the engine, because if these bolts are not torqued down correctly or not torqued down enough or torqued too much and the bolt broke and you have your ignition go and it pushes the piston down, it could throw the entire rod, because if there's nothing connected, because the bolt is actually broken in there, then we got issues. So this is one of the most important things to keep right. Okay, so I got those finger tightened down. All right, so now I got my torque wrench out here with a 10mm socket. The torque is supposed to be at 110 inch-pounds. So go ahead and get that in there. Remember, with this, it should click. So we'll just keep on going till it gets tight enough to where it clicks. need your partner to hold it while one of you torques it down. There you go. So it clicked right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other bolt to 110. Now that I've gotten that torqued down, we're gonna go ahead and put our tappets back in. So remember, our tappets go, there's one back here. Get it in there. There you go. And then there's one right here. And that connects to our camshaft. And then after that, we'll go ahead and put our camshaft back in. Now, the one important thing to remember about our camshaft is we have to put it in with the correct timing marks. So I'm gonna move this shim back just a little bit so I can see where that timing mark is. All right, and it's on the bottom side here, so I gotta rotate my crankshaft. Now it is showing right there. Now, important here, remember we gotta put a little oil on everything, make sure everything runs smoothly. I'm gonna put oil right here because that sits inside there, and I don't want any excess friction going on in there. So we got that, and then there's the timing mark for that. Go ahead and put that, line at it. Let's see if I got it. Perfect. Oh, I'm off. I looked at the wrong. I was looking at that bubble. So slide that out. There. Let's see. One, two, there. Just like that. Okay, see that mark there lines up there. That's what we're looking for. Put that shim back. And now you got the camshaft installed. One thing about when you put your camshaft in, have me come look at it and double check that everything looks right. After that, you can move on. Next, we're gonna go ahead and install the cylinder head. So first thing first, make sure you have your like little sleeves there. Then install our gasket back on if it was good enough to stay. And usually, so if you're doing a complete rebuild, you would clean all this off and you would just replace the new one. But because we're just doing this for educational purposes, this will be all right. So then now we can set that there, get that all lined up, and then just put our bolts in place. Don't tighten them down like crazy or nothing. It's not needed yet. Just put them in place, hold them there, because when we put this together, we got to do it in a special order. So grab an extension, one that fits onto the torque wrench, and then these are, I think, 12 millimeter bolts. Let's double check that. Yep, that's 12. So what I want you to do is just grab the extension like this without a wrench and just hand tighten them on down there, on down. And we got to go in a diagonal pattern. So I did this one first, so then do this one. And what that does is keeps everything evenly pressed down. Because if we did the bottom two, it could have like bent something out of shape, and we don't want to do that. It's the same thing you would do on like your wheels on a car. All right, another thing that we're doing is when we torque this bad boy down, we got to torque it down 3 times at different levels. That way we don't just torque it down way too much at first. So begin by setting your torque wrench at 75 inch-pounds. Start with this one up here, and then have your partner hold it down so it clicked, and then go to this one so it clicks, then go to this one, and go to this one. Okay. After you've done 75, bump that up to 150. And then do the same thing in the same order. Okay, and then lastly, bump it up to 200. 210 actually. Same order. Okay. Be careful with this one because it's harder to feel. You got to feel it and sense it. It's a lot lighter than the other two because you have a lot more force. Perfect. Now you've got that sucker cranked down exactly how we want it. Next step is put your push rods back in. So if you remember, they went in this hole, they go down, and they go on our tappet. So you gotta make sure it's on there. Should kind of click into place when you get it. So, one thing, once we get those in, we got to make sure these are level. So let me get a better angle for you. Those push rods are not level. So what we got to do is turn the engine until they are. Now, one thing I want you to notice is this one didn't move. It means this one's not on its tappet. So, there. give me a second to get this one on its tappet. So what I had happened here is the tappet was actually stuck. The push rod was on the tappet, but it was stuck on the bottom side. So I just had to push harder on this. So now it's moving, if you see that. They both move. So my intake's going up. My exhaust is going up. Now I'm looking at the point when they're both level. So, back it up. They're both level. And one other thing we can do to check is if we have a pencil, take your pencil and see if right in this top hole, if the piston is at the top of its movement, which it is. It's at the very top. So, go ahead and get to that point and then we'll move on from there. So now, grab the rest of your parts for this. And first, grab your 2 caps. Remember these little pieces I said are easily lost? Well, grab those, put them on top of here, on top of our springs, because we don't want to lose those. Get them put on there, make sure that, oh, that's close. I almost had to open it up. So be careful when putting them on there. You gotta kind of pop in place. Just like that. Perfect. So I know those 2 are good. Okay? So now, grab your cups, your push rod cups. Put that on, just like so. And then just hand thread these on, these big ones. Okay, so hand tighten it down till it touches the rocker right here. Do the same over here. Oh, sorry. Make sure you keep these on in place. Next, thread on that. Perfect. Thread those on. Okay, now that we have our rocker assembly put together while the piston's at top dead center, we need to do a valve lash adjustment. Basically, we got to go in under here, under our exhaust and our intake, and make sure there's a certain amount of space at a certain point of time where the piston is. So we'll go ahead and do that. So to begin, at the top of this hole, at the top, because we had these level, we're at top dead center. What I need you to do is put a pencil in there and rotate down till the pencil goes down just about 1/4 of an inch. Let's go ahead and do that. just like that. It's a little tough. You'll need probably your partner to help you. I'll get it down there just about 1/4 of an inch. So not even that much. It's just a little bit. Once we do that, we need to grab our feeler gauges. This bad boy right here. And what we need is 0.06 and 0.04. Okay? It's 0.06. So for our intake, which is this side, we need to have space of between 0.04 and 0.06. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen this up just a little bit, get that in there. I'm going to tighten it down so it can move slightly. And what we got to do is we got to grab our 2 wrenches, our 10 and our 14, with that in there, and tighten the top nut onto the 14. Because it's a lock nut. It's going to stop it from moving. I got my 14. Tighten my 10 down very carefully. So just like that. So I get that in there. So this was 0.05 and it says between 0.004 and 0.006, so 0.005 works for the intake. Now the exhaust, we got to do the same thing with 0.006 and 0.008. So let's go ahead and loosen this up a teeny tiny bit. Okay, so I got that loose. I'm gonna stick this in between, just like so. Tighten that bottom one down, but not too much. See how I can barely get that out of there? We want it to be like that, where I can set it there. I can also pull it out nicely. Okay, so that bottom one's perfect. I'm gonna keep that there. And I'm gonna hold it with the 14 and I'm gonna tighten the 10 down on top of it. And I'm gonna get rid of this guy out of here because that's in my way. We'll put it back after. Perfect. So now our valve lash is adjusted correctly. So lastly, what we got to do is torque that top one down. So we're going to use our torque wrench. These are 10 millimeter on top. But when we do it, remember we can't have that move. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So let's set our torque wrench. It says 60 foot-pounds, or sorry, 60 inch-pounds. Okay, I'm gonna move to this side a little bit. This guy on the bottom can't move, but we got to torque the top one down so that, perfect, just like that. Just like that. Perfect. So this is the end of video number 8 where we installed the crankshaft piston, camshaft, cylinder head assembly, rocker arms, and then did our valve adjustment. Next video, we will be diving into 4-stroke theory and a little more in depth on how the camshaft relates to the rocker arm assembly, which relates to the piston, so that it's basically how the engine works inside here. So, perfect.